say you had the will to win when it came to spreading the teachings, or was that more selfish at the beginning, and then it became more of a will thing after that?
Well, initially I was just going through the motions. I teach a class, I want another one, another one. There was no vision, none. It's just, okay, how many do you have this time? Okay, next month, and just keep going. And at some point when something, I don't know, like kind of opened up, I go, I really want to make this spread.
So when you started doing that and you noticed it's opening up your heart, how long was it before you started being able to fill up a level 2 class, or you see that love aspect start to take?
At least 10 years.
Okay.
At least 10 years. Because for me, there was no awareness that love and this, none of that. For me, it's just process. Yeah. Sorry. I wish I could give you a more inspiring story, but that was it.
I mean, that is inspiring because it's like you still stayed the course, even though you were growing and changing, within you were changing, but then as you stayed the course over time, you got the result anyway. It's kind of like you said at the beginning, you couldn't feel anything. You couldn't feel any energy. Talk to us a little bit about, did you finally start to become more energetically sensitive, and when did that happen?
It took 6 years.
Okay.
I remember that because I was teaching classes. I can make everyone feel energy because I know the process. Everybody, whoa. And then back in my mind, every time I did, I go, how'd they do that? Yeah.
Right.
And then I remember about 6 years, I was driving. And then I noticed, wow, my hand's getting warm out of nowhere. Then, of course, the engineering mind says, of course, that's the window, that's sunlight. So I put it down here, and I started noticing my whole leg got warm. I go, maybe this is what people are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because people tell me, I feel this, I think the darn thing. And then I go, oh, when I entertained the idea that I could feel, then I started, okay, maybe there's something there.
Okay.
That's what opened. For me, it's like imagine, I've been teaching for 6 years. For me, this is like, wow. Yeah, that's where it started.
Okay. So then once you were starting to able to scan, like now it's almost like you're a brand new student in a way.
In that sense,
you're like, man, I'm having, like, you're teaching and sensing the brand new experiences of being a day one student in some ways, right?
Yeah.
So now you're having the learning and the teaching at the same time. Did that amplify and magnify your awareness and your hypersensitivity? Like you start looking, or not hypersensitivity maybe, but when you were aware, how did that change your teaching style?
I became a better healer because now I could sense what's going on with them. Before that, when somebody comes for healing, I memorized the book practically. So what I did is, okay, what's your problem? You have asthma, you have arthritis, you have this, you have that. I had the protocol memorized in my mind. So I just, okay, sit down. I don't bother feeling their energy. I go, step 1, do this. Step 2, I just go through the process. How do you feel? Feel better? Okay, good. You don't? Okay, come back again.
Okay. Yeah.
And then after that, I go, oh, well, maybe, let me see. In the book, he says, this area is congested. Hey, he's right. So for me, the teaching and the learning started to become more real.
Yeah.
Because I experienced it.
So let's talk just a little bit about how Master Cho actually developed that, because he actually hired clairvoyants or worked with clairvoyants to verify everything, right? And so talk through a little bit about how, he developed pranic healing as a modality.
Well, in my limited knowledge of this, he lived in a place in the Philippines called Cebu, which is one of the provinces. And based on my recollection, when he came to Manila to study, I forgot what age that was, he started looking for a clairvoyant, a particular one. Okay, that's the story I heard. And that ended up being later on we know as Mang Mike Nator. And from there, he did thousands of experiments. He would open up healing centers and then had people come in with different types of ailments. And he would experiment. He just say, okay, he would ask the clairvoyant, okay, take a look. This ailment, what are the energy imbalances? What's the pattern? He's looking for patterns. He would say, okay, arthritis, this center is blocked. And then let's take another person. So at some point, he had a table of, let's say, 50, 100 arthritis patients. Each of them, he started noticing common denominators. And then next step was, of course, I'm speeding this up for you. Yeah. He would say, okay, what does it respond to? Cleaning, energizing. Okay, what happened? So all of this being observed simultaneously, getting feedback. And simultaneously, he's also getting instruction from his spiritual teacher. So this took, I have no idea, at least 20 years.
Wow.
So by the time he came out, that all those years of research has been done. By the time it got to us, that's why I was so confident by following the recipe, because I knew he worked on it already.
Yeah.
I mean, why would I reinvent the wheel? The hard work was there. I just followed step 1, step 2, step 3, and sure enough, I started seeing results just by following it.
Yeah.
So that's the limited knowledge I have of how he developed it.
So as he's developing that, I mean, how did that transition more into Arhatic yoga?
That was already in the background. I found out later, for him, he was not looking for healing. He was getting back to his spiritual path from before. And in the process, if I remember correctly, his teacher gave him a thesis. Okay, when you study spirituality, every soul has a thesis. Like going to college, you have a thesis. His thesis is to spread pranic healing, if I remember correctly. And so with that, that's how he developed pranic healing. Now, the interesting part is, I remember he's telling me, he said, actually, he would have developed it earlier if not for one limiting belief.
What was that?
Because a lot of the people that he's around, like Mang Mike and a few of his mentors, all of them could see energy, could feel energy, and they'll do miraculous healings. So initially, his mind was, in order to produce healings, you need to have all these spiritual gifts. So he didn't bother experimenting. He says, either you have it or you don't. Then at some point, I don't recall the details, but at some point he had a realization, wait, there's a process. If there's an ailment, this is a pattern. If you correct that pattern, this is the result. So that opened it up, and he started experimenting.
Because he was a chemical engineer by trade.
He's a chemical engineer and businessman, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what opened up the pranic healing. And when pranic healing was spreading, he started, I remember he's telling me, he said, you see, any healing modality is temporary. I said, Master, why? Because without the nature and understanding that you are a spiritual being, all suffering is temporary. All healing is also temporary. The real healing is connection to the soul.
Right.
When you realize you're a spiritual being having an earthly experience, that alone changes everything. That's the ultimate healing.
Yeah.
That's when he started using pranic healing essentially as a door to get people to understand energy.
Right.
And then from energy, you start to realize the soul is energy. That's why he said pranic healing is a bridge to spirituality.
Right.
Yeah.
So through that, watching him develop that, because I mean, it was already developed by the time you got it, but then he developed other things even later on. Like, I know you told the story about how he was actually in the process of developing like his meditation on prosperity whenever he was at your house, wasn't he?
Yes.
That's so intriguing to me. So being a part of that process, I mean, later looking back, you're probably like, wow, that was really crazy. But did you have that experience in the moment? Did you think like, this is really, neat that he's working on this at my house? Or what was your thoughts then?
Well, before he got there, I remember we were in the car. I asked him a simple question. I said, Master Joe, how did you come up with all these classes? Pranic healing, psychic protection, psychic self-defense, crystal healing, achieving all this. How did you come up with the classes? He goes, oh, it's very simple. I asked just one simple question. What does humanity need?
Wow.
They need healing for their physical body. That's how we came up with pranic healing, advanced pranic healing. They need psychological well-being, pranic psychotherapy. They need love in their life and connection, meditation, twin hearts. They need spirituality, inner peace, inner stillness, Arhatic yoga. Oh, they need money. Otherwise, how are they going to survive? Kri Shakti, pranic feng shui. Okay, sometimes people don't like you. Psychic protection. Okay, psychic self-defense. So he did not just come up with it for the sake of what is the need?
Yeah.
And using the information, the knowledge he has, he formulated ways for people to learn these techniques to better their life.
Yeah. And balance their life out. And, what comes to mind for me anyway is that I start thinking of the different ways that it's helped me personally. And I look at just his, there had to be a lot of observation, sitting and meditating and thinking about like, yes, there's a lot of ways that you could help humanity, but he was very methodical, like this, then this, then this. And he built an entire system to improve your life, which is amazing, right? So knowing now more about prosperity and how it interacts with spirituality, what do you think? I mean, a lot of times people don't believe those go together, but they're actually very intertwined. So what would you say to someone that is basically thinking like you have to be, poor to be spiritual, or you don't have any way of making spirituality and prosperity go together.
Actually, that was my problem. Because growing up in the Catholic school, although it's a very expensive Catholic school, you know, the priest that run it had no problem asking us for money, right?
Right.
But it's always portrayed, and all of us grew up with this. Most, maybe not all, most religions, it says the poor person is going to heaven, the rich guy's barbecuing in hell.
Right.
It's always that story, right? And then I remember when I came to the United States, I would write letters with him, and he would answer me. There's no email at that time. So I said, Master, when I do this healing, he will answer it. And then before he says love and blessings, Master Chokok Sui, he would always ask one simple question: how are your finances? So I just kind of ignored it, but I didn't notice it's the same. I kept all these letters. I still have them.
Wow.
Okay. So at some point, I went back to the Philippines to visit him, visit family. I finally asked him, Master, I'm just curious, why do you keep asking this question? He went like this: difficult to serve on empty stomach. Then he walked away. And for me, he's right. You could have a good heart, you have good intentions, with no resources, you can't do anything. It's useless.
Yeah.
And so I remember he saying, spirituality and materialism are two sides of the same coin. Having a good heart, having a strong connection to God, whoever you pray to, without the financial resources, you cannot manifest that in your life.
Fascinating.
There's so many people you want to help because you have a good heart, but you're dead broke, barely scraping for a living. Good luck with that.
Right.
I mean, he didn't say that. That's my version.
Mm-hmm.
So that woke up something in me. I go, yeah. So the more prosperous I am, number one, I'll have more freedom. Because he said that. You'll have more freedom to meditate. How in the world are you going to meditate when you're scraping for a living and you're working 5 jobs? But if you're financially stable, minimum, when you meditate, you can have peace. Because one of the things that people struggle with is worry. And when they're meditating, worry and stillness don't go together.
Yeah.
So if that's out of the way, your children are taken care of, your bills are being paid, you can experience inner stillness and peace, do your spiritual connection with no interference.
Yeah.
So it gives freedom, independence to do what you want. And more importantly, it gives you the resources to serve people.
And that's a beautiful gift, because I think, one thing I have learned, I was always taught the spiritual principle of tithing, and I really wasn't taught why. And I think one thing I learned through this process is, really it is an energetic exchange. And so it will be multiplied. Like there is a principle of tithing in just about every religion, right? There is like give and you shall receive. And that's, just a pretty solid principle across all religions and all humanity, really, even before a religion. So talk a little bit about what that means to you, and then how did you actually learn to apply that in your life? Because you struggled with that for a little bit.
Well, first thing I'm going to say is, Jason, you're a good student because you got that. With me, I didn't get it. Because I told you about the negative experience I have with school and asking for money. So for me, tithing for me was just a term they use to scam people for money. So the message I taught that in the Greek Shakti prosperity class, I already shut down. And I remember that I did all the different techniques, affirmation, visual, I did all that. Yeah. Because I'm an engineer, I love process. Do this, you produce this, right?
Yeah.
And what turned the corner was, after the class, our finances were horrible for about 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
And then at some point I told my wife, nothing's working. Let's try that giving thing. Because she took the class with me, right? She goes, okay. And then the first thing you come up with is like, what the heck are you going to give if you're like this with finances, right? Yeah. And so I went to Master Cho. He said, first thing you need to do, write everything down. All your expenses. Well, my wife is good at holding money. She listed everything from ice cream cone to movies to this. We looked at it and go, man, 80-90% of this are wants, not needs.
Okay.
So what we did is we cut it down and we said, hey, we have so much money extra. Then we start giving. And then we start giving. It's one of those things, you ask anybody who has ever tithed, it defies logic. You give and yet somehow you have more left.
Yeah.
Because somehow money just comes from unexpected places. So our finance started improving and I go, oh, let's try more of that.
Yeah.
And that's when things took off.
That's amazing. So how did that affect the healing side of the business and growing that? Like, did you notice results? I mean, you probably noticed results financially. Did you notice results spiritually or mentally or in relationships? Did you notice results any other area of your life?
Spiritually, yes. You know why? When you give, control doesn't, money does not control you anymore. Otherwise, money controls us. The fact that you're going to use hard-earned money and just simply give it away, when on the other side, you're looking for every bargain, money controls your consciousness. And I remember he said that, he said, by giving and tithing, now the soul has better control over money, not money controlling the soul.
That's very true. You know, as you're saying that, I can recognize that in my own life and how that's really, you know, as I've, you know, like the meditation on prosperity says, as I give and share generously and abundantly, my life is blessed. And I have been blessed. And I mean, I live an amazing life now because I feel a big part of that has been tithing. And that is a principle that I did not do until I learned it from you. I was in thought. I thought I was a giving person. Like, I'll give a little money here. I'll give him $5. You know, I'm not giving 10%. You know, and when I actually started disciplining myself, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to go just a little bit above and beyond because that worked pretty good. When I started tithing more than 10% or going above and beyond, I noticed blessings just flowing in from all over, and it revolutionized our business. You know, so now, as for me personally, we made a decision. We tithe as a business, we tithe personally, and I try to teach that to everybody on my team because it's been such a blessing in my life. So thank you for teaching me.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's changed my life and even our children. I remember growing up, our two kids, two daughters, when the older one, her name's Genevieve, she was still, 6, 7 years old. Every time we go to church, she looks forward to be the one to put the envelope in the box. Literally, when we walk out, oh, Mom, Dad, you forgot. So we carry her, she put it in. Yeah. And it's interesting, many years later, there's something that stuck to both their heads. 10% is God's money. It's already implanted. 10% God's money. We don't touch that. And of course, being Asian, we're taught to save. Yeah. So basically, they give 10%, they probably save 80%, the 10% to spend.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So even though our finances have dramatically improved, they've retained that part. So when they're with their friends like, hey, why did you spend? They go, it's not necessary. And their friends look at, they're a bunch of weirdos, but I told them, good job.
That's amazing. And talk a little bit about how that tithing actually accelerated karma. It can be used to accelerate karma. I mean, it's like a spiritual principle. And I know in your life with one of your daughters, you actually utilized that. And Master Cho had taught you a little bit about some spiritual principles that accelerated healing. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Life throws these challenges at you that until you see the big picture, you go, oh man, why me, right?
Yeah.
Our second daughter was diagnosed with autism at 4 years old. And so I panicked because there's no protocol for autism.
Yeah.
And deep down we go, you're this great healer, great teacher. You don't even know how to fix your daughter. So for me, it was a big conflict. Yeah. So I went to Master Cho. I said, okay, there's no protocol for it. There's no one he's ever worked on. So our daughter was the first one. He started scanning, looking for patterns, did the healing, so on, and we start seeing improvement. So he gave me the protocol, and we shared it with all the classes, whoever wants it. And he did something quite interesting. In one of the nights after the healing, we're walking down the street, it was me and another person who could see energy. And he said, okay, whatever you earn, when you give money to charity, all the good works you do and all that, you have to delegate, decree 30% of the good karma, the spiritual merit that you receive from doing this good work, give it to your daughter. Now, as a parent, what would you do? I'll give you everything.
Yeah.
He said, no, you have to follow instructions. I said 30%. You need the other 70% to spread the teachings. I'll explain that in a second. So I remember at that time, he said to the person, okay, I want you to energetically look at the energy around the child's brain. And he told me, I said, okay, make the decree. I said, okay, I will decree that 30% of any good karma I generate by doing service, giving money to charity, healing, spending the teachings, go towards Helena's healing. And for me, it's like, okay. And then he asked the clairvoyant, like, what do you see? Oh, the energy of the brain started to glow. All right. Now, being an engineer, I go, what does that mean? Well, energy is everywhere. Why doesn't it just glow by itself. So I asked Master Cho about it. I said, Master, what happened? He said, look, by herself, her soul does not have enough good karma. Good karma can be delegated. Just like you plant an apple seed, you get an apple tree. You can take all those apples and share it with other people. So good karma can be shared. All right? Okay, so every time I do healing on children, all the good karma goes to her. Give money to charity for healing, give it to her. And that's where we saw a dramatic turn. The healing was being done. Of course, you do everything your doctor tells you to do, speech therapy, this therapy, whatever therapy. We did all that. But I remember her therapist would say, you know, for autism, your child is pretty tame. What do you mean? The other autistic child we worked on, we go through therapy, they kick, they scream, they bite. Your daughter just sits and does her homework. I'm not supposed to, am I supposed to explain to them what happened?
Yeah.
And so looking back, that was the turning point. And I remember that made me realize karma is not just about money, because people keep saying tithing, so you'll be financially doing well. No, everything runs on karma.
Right.
And the easiest way to understand this, if you don't mind me sharing, is one of the teachings the Buddha said, causes and conditions. So the story goes like this, the different versions of it. A guy is crossing a bridge, the bridge collapsed, the guy died. So somebody asked what happened. The Buddha said, it's causes and condition. Conditions are such, the current is very strong, the bridge is dilapidated, it's old, so it crashed. And people ask, well, of all the hundreds of people crossing, how come he's the unlucky guy? And the Buddha said, because he's the only one who carried the cause. Then he went in more detail. He says, cause and conditions are like soil and seed. So when people work very, very hard to be successful, they're working on the conditions. But they don't have the good luck, as they call it. Change the word luck to karma. They don't have the seed of success. They can work their ass off all day long, nothing will happen. And then you get some people who barely do anything, money falls on their head.
Yeah.
Right?
I was listening to somebody and they said, I was talking to Robin Leach and he said the richest people in the world don't do anything. And I thought, because they don't work for money, I thought, well, maybe I need to change my thought around money. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I think we've been conditioned to think a certain way, for sure. So
with that, it changed my perception. And then, so when we teach in class, which you probably heard also that if you know someone who's sick, in addition to doing healing, getting proper medical care, you should ask them to donate to charity. Here's the interesting part of similar ailment.
Yes.
Because as you help someone, if you have a heart ailment, you give money to charity to people, organizations that help you with heart ailments, the karmic credits are similar.
What's something you've seen that you would consider miraculous in a similar fashion to that? I mean, that is a miraculous thing, but I mean, I want people to understand that everyday miracles are possible, right? Because I've seen things happen in my life that I thought, wow, that was really incredible, but it's almost subtle, right? They're subtle, but they're miraculous.
I saw one happen within a week.
Okay.
I was teaching class. I get a phone call. Your grandmother's in the hospital. Grandmother's in the hospital. Just give you some backdrop. In California, Southern California, the senior citizens, when they go to a certain part of Chinatown, they get to ride a bus to Vegas overnight. Bus, food, hotel, everything paid for.
Okay.
Okay? The only stipulation, you have to be in the gambling floor for 2 hours.
Okay.
That's it. Okay? I think it was total of $11.
Okay.
So my grandmother would go because they got nothing to do, and hey, you got your buddies, right?
Yeah.
She got so excited she forgot to bring her blood pressure medication.
Oh.
So when she came back, she had a stroke. So much so, if I remember the story correctly, she started having numbness, whatever. She got hospital, she fell into a coma.
Oh, wow.
So Saturday night, teaching is your grandmother's in the hospital with coma. I went in there, did some healing, and noticed something moved. The doctor says, no, that's nothing. It's just normal twitches. So I remember to go, wow. Then before I could even say anything, they said, by the way, you might want to call all your relatives from everywhere because we don't know how long she's going to last. I figured, well, they might think I'm weird, but if you'll save her life, who cares? So we're in a waiting room. By the way, just to give you an idea, my mom has 10 siblings. There's 11 of them. So imagine all of us are in here. And I said, oh, by the way, I have a suggestion. we need to give money to charity in grandma's name, preferably her money. I'm thinking, she's in a coma, she's not complaining.
Yeah.
So when you're desperate, people are open. So okay, fine. So one of my aunts decided to coordinate. And that was a Saturday, right? They said she would not last probably 3-4 days. By Wednesday, she opened her eyes. By Thursday, she was mobile.
Wow.
The weird part is 2 weeks later, she's back in Vegas.
Remembered her blood pressure medication. Hopefully.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But I saw it with my own eyes because
Wow.
it's supposed to be gone. And no medical treatment would do anything. The only thing that's different was the tithing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
It was coincidence. I could care less what they think. I saw my grandma walking.
I mean, when you see enough correlation over time, it stops becoming a coincidence and it starts becoming evidence. And then
Yes.
you start to say, I believe the way I believe because I've seen it with my own eyes.
Yes.
I mean, it's like when Jesus was healing and, you know, he's out there doing things and then he goes to his own land. And he's like, a prophet can't heal in his own land because people have no belief.
Yeah.
Well, they had formed those beliefs, right? So our limiting beliefs are sometimes something that are so powerful, but it can be used for good or bad.
Exactly.
So talk to us a little bit about when you were going through these teachings and you're going through and seeing some miracles and you start growing pranic healing. How, I know you were on the news for a little bit there and like you started having some of these wins that started happening.
Oh, that one. Okay.
And yeah, so talk to us a little bit about that.
Remember I told you that I don't feel that I have credibility if I've not done it enough? So what I would do with every class I teach in the earlier years, after a class, I would say, who wants a session? It's free. Guess who stays? Everyone.
Yeah.
So I give myself about 1 to 2 to 3 hours after every class. Whoever stays, do healing for free.
Okay.
I did that for at least 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And in one of those nights, this woman came in and, oh, I'm coming here to have my boyfriend healed over back pain. So did healing of back pain, he feels better. Then he goes, me too. I go, what's your problem? So you have to fill out a form, right?
Yeah.
The only thing it says there was left eye blind or right eye blind. Forgot already.
Okay.
Okay. So I look at it and go, okay, so what do you need to work on? Healing. I go, for what? That. I go, you're blind. What do you want me to do? But she insists so much. I thought, I know this is bad. What went through my mind is like, okay, I'll just wave my hands just to get it over with. Besides, I can't make a blind eye blinder.
Right.
In other words, you can't screw it up,
Yeah.
right? I'll just do it and then done.
No risk.
So I said, okay, let's give it a try. Close your good eye. Take a look. What do you see? Pitch black. Okay. I just followed the protocol in the book, which you've learned, regeneration. You know, greenish violet, greenish yellow, those colors. 15 minutes later, I said, close your good eye. What do you see? Oh, it's now grayish, not black. Okay. So repeat it again. 15 minutes later, what do you see? Oh, there seems like little dots of light. Okay, close your eyes. So I go, something happening. So I went, finished the protocol, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I did not know what will happen. So she sat there. I walked back there behind her. I said, Jill, open your eyes. And I went like this and she screamed, I can see. I go, the first thing in my mind go, are you, like instead of
Using the wrong
you're
eye.
peeking, right? No, she could really see. So I
Wow.
said, you really can see. What are you gonna tell your doctor? She goes like this, give me that advanced pranic healing book. She went like this, closed his eye and read regeneration with her eye.
Wow.
And that started it because I didn't realize she's the daughter of one of the producers of the Emmy Awards
Okay.
in Hollywood.
Okay.
And one thing led to another. Before you know it, we're in this cheesy show called Hot. It's one of those shows on TV. And yeah, that's what I was labeled the Hollywood healer.
Okay.
And from there, it just blossomed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was also the time when MasterCo came to the United States. When he found out, he said, "Okay, you're ready. You can have the title." Because before that, I didn't have the title master. And he said, "Okay, you're ready." Okay, title was bestowed. Guess what I said? No, master, I don't need it. Okay, that's not out of false humility
Right.
because I know him. He gives you a title. It comes with a boatload of responsibilities. And sure enough, after that, when I got the title, I used to be teaching once a month in a place called Pasadena.
Okay. Yeah.
once a month. After that, it took off. A few years later, I barely see my family. I'm every weekend I'm teaching, and you know my schedule.
Yeah.
It just took off like a rocket
Right.
because the title has to be earned.